evening, everyone. That sounds more like it. And I have this thing, and I'm not used to a very quiet audience. So I need all of you all to just do something. Could you all please, put both your hands up? Everyone, come on. Since we're going to sail on a boat, so I'm going to sing a song, and all we will do is just, tap your hand with a rhythm. We ready? We can do that?
Yes.
Okay. If you get down to the river, bet you're gonna find some people who live. You don't have to worry, cause you got no money. People on the river are happy to give. Big wheels keep on turning. Proud Mary keeps on burning. I said rolling, rolling. We're about to roll on a river. So good evening, namaste, and a very warm welcome to all of you. It's such an honor to have, all teachers, professors of different universities, principals of different schools, heads of different educational institutions with us this evening. And on behalf of Burlington English, I would like to thank each one of you for giving us your valuable time to be a part of this evening titled Tune Into Tomorrow. It is all about looking towards the future. In the words of Nelson Mandela, education is the most powerful weapon one can use to change the future. And you people are the very change makers with your constant efforts, perseverance, love, and diligence in building a better future, a better tomorrow. So calls for an astounding round of applause for all of you. And this evening is dedicated to each one of you. It's a musical tribute to celebrate your valuable contribution in shaping a better nation for all of us. All we need from you is the energy, because all you have to do throughout the evening is just enjoy being here, being with us. Let's begin this with lighting of the inaugural lamp. And for lighting of the inaugural lamp, I would like to request Mr. Amit Baveja, Chief Business Officer, India and Southeast Asia at Burlington English India, Mr. Sayan Sarkar, Regional Manager, East Burlington English India, and Ms. Nelly Ahmed Tanvir, Founder and Managing Trustee, Maria Public School, to please kindly step forward. And while we light the inaugural lamp, we'd like to chant the following shloka, because lighting the inaugural lamp before you begin anything, it is always considered auspicious. I would like to request ma'am and Amit sir to kindly step forward. Shubham karoti kalyanam, arogyam dhana sampadaha, shatru buddhi vinasaya, deepar jyoti namastute, which essentially means, I bow to you, O light, who brings to us auspiciousness, prosperity, abundance of wealth, good health, and the destruction of enemies' intellect. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite someone who actually needs no introduction. I'm pretty sure a lot of you are very familiar with her, but still I would like to speak a few lines on her. She is the founder and managing trustee of Maria Public School, Guwahati. A visionary, she made her foray into entrepreneurship back when it was an arena kept covert from women in the Northeast. Nurturing the principles of learning beyond the classroom and nature as our classroom, she led to the inception of Maria Montessori House of Children in the year 1988. The school graduated into a senior secondary school with a smashing strength of 3,000 and over 100 faculty members, ensuring wholesome development of the students in a premium prepared environment. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Miss Nelly Tanvir. Ma'am, please kindly step forward, and I would like to request you to speak on this occasion.
Thank you, Stuti, and a very good evening to everyone. It is indeed a great pleasure for me to be standing here and addressing educators from the Northeast. Firstly, I would like to thank Burlington Group for this awesome opportunity given to all of us. I think Marians and all the Northeastern educators need to give them a big hand. It is actually a wonder that we could manage to do it. Thank you, Ratnesh, Samreen, and to the entire team once again. Thank you to my team of Maria's Public School and to the Sophia Navigation Company for making this happen today. Burlington English India, a global conglomerate, dedicated to providing English language learning solutions for teachers and learners. Why we are here today. We are a world-leading organization, that is the Burlington Group, dedicated to providing English language learning solutions for teachers and learners. Burlington has a rich legacy of over 4 decades where it has impacted millions of lives across 40 plus countries by helping people attain language proficiency. Thank you, Burlington English, for being here with us. And let me tell you, Northeast India is one of the better states in the English language communication skills in the entire country. And I think everyone would vouch for that. Yes, we have a Western culture in spite of our local regional culture, but yes, we are very affluent in our language and communications. But yet, we need, as educators, to learn more and more and need to grow better with the English language systems. I thank my principal for bringing her entire team of English department teachers, to the principals of various schools for being here, and to this great venture. I never thought it would come on a boat like this, where Ratnesh said in Israel when we were traveling together that this time I want it to happen in the Northeast and on the boat. Thank you all. Thank you, Ratnesh. Thank you, Nisha, for making it possible. And I'm proud to host all of you. And not just me, my entire team of the Sophia Navigation Company. The Sophia Navigation Company apparently is in my mother's name. And the Kohua Bon is another, well, can any one of you explain? Kohua Bon? It's an orchid, or it's a dried flower which comes out during the summer season or the autumn season, yeah. And it is widely seen in the villages of Assam or as you sail along the river Brahmaputra, on the edges. So that's why we've named it Kohua Bon appropriately. Thank you, Stuti, for being here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, and she is one of the alumni of Maria's public school. And Rodin, of course, has been a little child when he joined in. And a big hand to Rodin for doing the needful. To you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I won't take much time. I feel like going on and on, but I'm very excited for the evening to follow. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd also like to mention that this beautiful boat that we are on, which will be sailing very shortly, belongs to Nelly, ma'am. So on behalf of Burlington English, we'd like to thank you for giving us this opportunity to host this beautiful evening here on the boat. And as a token of our appreciation and gratitude, we'd like to present a memento to Nelly, ma'am. And I'd like to request Ratnesh sir to do the honors. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ratnesh sir. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to invite someone very special who is here amidst us this evening. But before that, let us know a little about him. With 20 plus years of experience in telecom, banking, edtech and education sector, working in senior leadership roles, he has worked with policymakers, researchers, educationists, helping them formulate policies, building learner-centric models and achieving operational excellence in India and the Southeast Asia region. An alumnus of JNU and MBA from Kellogg School of Management, he also has an MA degree from the University of Cambridge. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Ratnesh Kumar Jha, CEO Burlington Group of Companies, Southeast Asia. But of course, before I hand over the mic to him, let us take a look at the audio visual.
Good evening. My name is Ratnesh, and very warmly Nelly ma'am was suggesting that when we were traveling to Israel together, she suggested that we should be thinking about doing something similar to what we have done in different parts of the world. In here in Assam, it was a very warm sort of invite to me. But before I talk about details there, why I said this slide legacy here, and why were you watching that phosphoric jump? It has a context, and the context we're going to spend 60 minutes talking about that context. But before I do that, let me welcome all of you on behalf of Burlington Group for taking out time from a busy schedule of yours and being here. Let me also thank all of you as an educator for the last couple of years, difficult years, which we had, couple or 3 years now, where all educators kind of really come together to deal with a very difficult time. And often when we remember, we see how challenging it was for the teachers, for the parents, for the students, and we still see the after effect of that. You know, the children going through that, the teachers really, but all of you educators really managed it so well. So from Burlington Group side, let me just give a big round of applause to all the teachers for doing a great job during this time. And making sure that the continued learning happens. You know, it wasn't easy when you're really teaching kids on the screen, off screen, with kids in the classroom, on the screen, parents trying to come in the screen and trying to tell you things to be done in a very, very, very difficult and we've seen that really passing through. But I'm very glad that we are all out of that now and we are back to the normal and hope this continues. The legacy, but who am I to talk about legacy? So let me just wanted to introduce myself. So this is my introduction, you know, this is who am I. These are my institution where I have studied, you know, so school's gone to a very normal school in a small town, went to Delhi University, went to JNU, went to Kellogg, Cambridge, conferred a degree to me, and this still stands as a legacy to me because each of these been experienced. And when I look back in terms of my own sort of past, all my memories of growing up from a small child to now when we started working in a professional setup, all of this comes very true. And all this is, these are education institutions I'm talking about. So when we talk about legacy, for everybody else, means a lot. People say what you do is what you create as a future, but what you act is what your legacy is, right? So for everybody else, legacy means many things. For the educator, for all of us an educator, it means trust, it means confidence, it means really the commitment. For you to the institution, for you to the child who is actually learning in the school, for you to the parents of the child who you're actually taking the child away to the school spending time. So that's why I said it's important for us an educator to see. So here what we also want to make an effort today is to, the whole topic about tune into future is around the fact that we're not going to talk about Burlington as a group and what we do, we will. But also for us to spend a bit of a time as part of this whole corridor, as all of us know, in the school we talk about, the learning really does not happen in the classroom, it happens in the corridor. You know, when you're meeting your friends and you're trying to hustle with them and trying to really talk. So as a Burlington corridor, if I may call it, we're trying to actually come together and see what's going to happen, what's happening around us. And our effort as Burlington to see that can we share this with you and some of the trends, which are what are we seeing? And based on those trends, perhaps make an effort to see what as an educator we can actually do. So we're going to look at where is India vis-a-vis what's happening. We're going to look at what are these citizens of the future. Who are we talking about, right? We're going to look at if you have these as a country where you are, and if that's the future, how are we going to be part of that transforming future, and how our children and educators, as educators, we can contribute. Okay, so you know this is a little bit of history. A little bit of us going back, and I think I'll also try putting that in context of what we're doing here and why what's really happening on Brahmaputra becomes even more important. So if you go back in history, 0 AD, lots of stuff happening in the eastern part of the world. So this is a 0 AD, which I'm actually reflecting on the world map. So as you start moving into the centuries, you see the shift happening towards the west. So what is happening here? The beginning of all of the civilizational changes happened, but then it started moving more towards west, and all what you see, it changes through the industrial revolution, etc., moving more and more changes happening towards the western side. But then slowly, gradually, it starts actually moving in the early 18th, 19th century, more towards the eastern side. And what you see today, a lot of it is a reflection of China. but also what you see today, that this really moving here again back in the eastern side. What essentially I'm saying, the geopolitical and the macro, the way you see the changes and the influence of China becoming, is not only a reflection of the world changing and the power shifting. It is also a civilizational change which we talk about. People or globe or the world is actually looking at East or us in the eastern side. And largely in the large country like India and China is going to play an important role. China today plays a very important role as the second largest economy. You see a lots of discussion today in a context of economy and a geopolitical changes happening about China, but also roll forward. You're seeing 2040, 2035, India play a very important role. It's going to be third largest economy as it is projected. You will have a per capita income which is going to be trending towards about $20,000 from a current $2,500, $3,000. So the shift is happening more towards East, to begin with China, then with India in 2035, 2040. No, this is, you have to. So the world is actually looking through this window more towards East. So this opens up door for East. It's also contextual in the sense of where we are right now. I was talking to one of the educators outside, and I was told that somewhere here in the late 17th century, the battle was fought between Oham and Mughals, and how contextual it is that when Government of India says, look East, act East. So as you are looking at world to looking at East, India itself is looking at East. And it opens a new set of opportunity for the country, as a country, India, but also as a eastern states for the world. So the whole corridors having a neighborhood East policy. So that is becoming very important. And be able to spend time with you to talk about and see some of the trends and see, is there a way that we can collectively find something, right? And find some way of actually navigating through the changes which are happening. While it is also a very troubled time in the world, but at the same time, future looks coming towards us. So who are these citizens of the future? This is the kind of discussion we need to do together. And I think, therefore, I wanted not only for me to do this discussion, I wanted to do this discussion with you, and I also wanted one of the educators and the senior educators to be part of this discussion. So I'll invite Nisha to join me in this discussion. Nisha, please come in, and over to you to introduce Nisha to all of us.
Nisha Bhakkar is the CEO Education of Vishwa Samudra Holdings Private Limited, with a fascination to set up schools nurturing teachers through in-service trainings and outbound programs. Ms. Bhakkar led the whole school transformation for schools, such as the Heritage School Gurgaon, in association with iDiscovery. Hers is a distinguished trajectory of heading K-12, CAIE and CBSE schools, serving as a primary years program international baccalaureate coordinator, a resource person for the reading cell of NCERT under the Sarva Siksha Abhiyan, and developing teachers resource packs have made her a prominent leader in her field and rightly honored with various awards for the best educationist. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Ms. Nisha Bhakkar.
So Nisha, since I'm interacting with the educators, I will have to use this. So far I was comfortable with the slides, so I think allow me to start this discussion on the citizens of future as the first question posed to you, and over to you to really talk what you think is right. So the first set of questions which is coming, and this is really also a discussion where we would like to come to you and take your views as well, because it really shapes us the way we're thinking. Nisha, the first question which is coming in educators' mind with all of what we see as the changes, and I think we'll go through some of those changes quickly. See, what's really happening in the labor market increasingly, in terms of demand and skills, the way the skills are changing. You see a lot of discussion around this whole man and machine happening, and clearly this graph reflects that a lot of things which is repetitive, a lot of things which can really, can be done by the machine is getting replaced by the machine, and that's the trend which you're seeing really presented in terms of graph here. So what you see also done international study for jobs, you see clearly those trends are suggesting that artists, designer, media workers are the ones which are going to take a which will continue to have a creative jobs there, but repetitive jobs would actually go down. These are all sort of labor trends which we are seeing. Again, another set of stats which is very no different. Computer engineers, because of the way the machine learning, etc., is changing, it continue to have relevance. That you see that also has a relevance seen in context of India. India continue to be a power in service and IT sectors, and it will continue to have a dominating role to play in the future. This is a very good trend. We continue to think that school teachers, school leaders will play a very important role. You could replace every other job. You could replace those repetitive jobs, but school teachers, school leaders will continue to play a very, very important role, and it will have and in the context of India, it's even more because we've had lots of work to be doing in the future in this school and education and skill space. Another data which suggests that, the industry would have the change. The manufacturing will happen. So India cannot be a superpower thinking that service-oriented industry would help. So the manufacturing in India would continue to play well, and therefore we as an economy will continue to have that growth trajectory. So in context to the world, the whole look east policy holds true both for China and India, because it's the computer industry, it's a creative industry, and also the manufacturing industry which is helping you. But all of this in between is really important for us to have a context of that whole, how exactly the society should be. And as an educator, are these a function of those SDGs defined, or are these a function of us to really be changing in the way we are teaching students? So be more empathetic, be really, really worried about what's happening in the nature, and be aware of the fact that what's around us. Now, with all of this, Nisha, this whole student, which is what we have seen through going through so much of change. What, according to you, the biggest change you have seen in the last few years in the life of a learner? And that's a question to all of us. That sets a lot of context in terms of our...
All right. So I want you all to look up, there's some books kept on your table. Just open them up. Now I'm acting like a real teacher. And I'll try to explain through that, because we'll not believe what just Ratnesh says, because ultimately we are the ones who go back into the classrooms, and we are the ones who have to deal with children and answer the parents, right? So what is it that they're bringing to us? And I'm not saying that I completely agree, yes? Any of them. Let's look at the 21st century, the big books that we have, right? We'll start from there. Just open up any one of the chapters. The 21st century. On top, what do you see? There's a reading written, right? So I'm not supposed to be, or I'm not trying to, talk so much about Burlington essay, because we're talking about technology. The problem is not where the technology is, and nowhere is the technology telling you to take away the emotions. The problem is when you're not using technology in the right way. And what is the right way is often where we get confused, because even as a teacher, when I get into the classroom, it is how do I teach technology? So either it is the ICT room, which is not just a subject, but then how do I bring it to the classroom? Because we can't take away technology today, especially after the COVID. But again, the same issue is that the problem is that there's been enough of technology already that they've done with in the last 2 years. So how do I balance it out? And this is exactly what we are talking about. So there's a read aloud feature in the textbook. Now this is nothing but I'm bringing the technology to help, because we all have our own local accents. And can I bring that in to bring in a very neutral accent, because it is about reading. Language has to be read in the right way, pronounced in the right way. So if technology is brought in the right manner to support the teachers and children, I don't think there's going to be any problem. So coming back to what Ratnesh was asking, what is a challenge or what is a 21st century kid? I really don't know, to be very honest. Even I'm struggling with the same, in spite of being a parent of a grown-up child. I really don't know, but I do understand, I have some sense that what is it that children will require. And definitely a curriculum which is aligned or where technology really supports it well is something that we need. Now then, coming to the question that he asked of emotional intelligence, look at some of the questions that we have and look at what we are asking children in the classes. Read the text, answer the question. Are we giving them scope for any kind of an emotional development? Definitely not. Open up the first, any one chapter. I request you all, please do that. In between, I start talking like a teacher. Open up page number so and so. So anyway, please open up. And you'll see a theme page, That's what I love about this book. Every chapter, like here, it starts with a theme. Let's look at the questions. Oh God, I'm not even wearing my specs. Can you read out some of the questions? These are very well thought themes, and they are talking about me connecting at a deeper level to myself as a student, to my peers sitting next to me, and also to the environment at large. So it does talk about self. It talks about the child getting deeper into not just the English chapter, but something which is much more meaningful. And when we do that, we're definitely going to have more sensitive children. And when we have more sensitive children, obviously we will be in touch with our emotions. But the point is, we are not even in touch with our emotions because we're rushing them through chapters and chapters and chapters and periods, and definitely it's not going to happen.
So for example,
okay.
Nisha, can I
Yeah.
take just to help? So I think while it wasn't a discussion largely about the book, so the way what we have tried doing it. So for example, there is a chapter, let's say in class 5, we are teaching a chapter 4 on climate. And in the climate chapter, we're trying to bring in element of not only climate, but how climate is actually relates to any of the things which is happening in the science faculties. Bring in those elements and have that very live discussion. For example, within those climate discussion, bring in a level of words and the structure of the words in a way that those are dealt in other subjects as well. So the subject like sciences also can be dealt through a language class which you're dealing with. So we try actually making as much as effort to make it very specific topic-based, competency-based, but also bring in other subjects, words and structures in a way. So we try to make it very light and make sure that it remains a thematic, right, and has aspect of other sirs also interwoven. That's exactly what Nisha was actually talking.
And here, one little more confusion that we have as educators, that everything can't have every subject. You can't integrate all the subjects everywhere and every time, and it is not even required. As an English teacher, my role is to develop the English language skills. And there I bring in different themes so that the children at least become aware of the terminology, the vocabulary, and then they can relate to it when it comes in the science class, because that's the job of the science teacher. So everything cannot have all disciplines in one, but definitely, like Ratnesh has explained, different themes cater for that. Yeah.
Sure. So I think, I think I'll shift the discussion before I move into a next question, Nisha. I think recently we've been here, all of us have gone through this whole change of NEP, NCF discussion. The foundational year in NCF has come in, and I've been involved in that, some of those discussions and debate with the policymakers and with the educators such as yours. The fact is that end assessment is not changing. So whether it takes the form of 10th, 12th or the QET, it's not changing. That's not going to change. As an educator, the large part of impression and the change which you can make, it is in the foundational year and before they get into the standard 9th, till about standard 8. And that is where the idea of this whole education and skills play a very important role. Often we talk about how do you get the thinking skills in the children. The thinking skills are a function of as much as time are you spending as an educator, talking about those themes and having those discussions and debates, and therefore an output skills which you develop. Right? Those are things which is really where we have to spend time. So do we really want a classroom and that 45 minutes which we are spending having lots of focus in the primary and the till standard 8 on the education side, or you really want a good play between the skills and education, the kind of discussion which is really important. Having said that, the technology, what we see two sides. One, the tsunami of technology none of us can stop. If you think you would allow not digital in the classroom and the child will not go through a digital, that's not happening. I think I'm seeing it often in every schools. It's not a function of a school of the Cambridge IBs and higher, every school. The child today, all of us are exposed to that technology. So it's not going away. What you could do is to make sure the good part of the technology can be leveraged and do a good blend of it. Large part of that thinking can happen through a book and therefore a intervention through the book. But is there a way that you can bring in a blend element and do a good play of it? And which is why I read aloud, readers, making sure right kind of reading happening, making sure those are, stuff like pronunciation plus, etc., which is a utilization of those things which is really come handy as far as we are concerned. So I think that's the first learner question. Any other question about anything which is bothering about learner? Any other question you have? You think emotional intelligence is very important, right? Given the fact that so much of technology happening and so much of click happening. Every second you change, right? So how is brain dealing with those changes happening at every few seconds, which as a parents and educators we keep changing through the screen. How do you deal with that mind is very, very important challenge which we have. Perhaps the habit of reading, perhaps the habit of making sure there is a good blend happening, perhaps that what they see outside to bring them inside and make the good use of that, perhaps the making internet as a safer place for the children. For those are the kind of things which we've been should be thinking about to make it a nice blend of it. For us to say that I will dislodge everything by not allowing technology, that seems difficult now, because perhaps you would have taken it much earlier as a call. It is not happening. Child will go through that. If they don't go through this in school, they would go through in college, or they would go through in the their own sort of when they start working. So I think it's a good blend, right set of behavior, thinking culture, more and more habits of reading in the classroom. Some of those kind of things which we are seeing at the time.
So last week I was in the tribal interiors of Orissa, and I went down to a few schools, and something which was very obviously right there in front was the way children were, so calm, so focused. And the teachers, I sat through a few classes, and they're not trained teachers as such, in the sense that they're not from big city, they don't have access to great stuff or trainings and all, and yet the children were very calm, and they were really following a certain system without actually the system being visible. There were no bells ringing. And the difference is only what Ratnesh is just talking about, that those children inside the classrooms and even outside have a very meaningful engagement. And that meaningful engagement, like what he just said, things are happening in the corridors. When we were growing up, a lot of our learnings happened in the corridors, because inside the classrooms we did feel a little suffocated. Maybe not that bad. It was a nice school that we all went through, but still it wasn't really what we are giving our children. And I think there what happens inside the classroom also needs to change. It needs to be, even if you're using technology, or whether we're having a discussion or a dialogue with children, it needs to be more meaningful, and that so that that focus comes in, and that is where the problem is, because we throwing so much of there's so much of stimulation to the brain every second, every minute, that it's just so overactive that it doesn't allow the child to focus, which I did not see in the tribal areas at all. And if we bring that into the classroom, because of course we can't control environments back home or anywhere outside, but that's something which is entirely in our hands. So I think a lot of children will learn to use, whether it is reading, whether it is technology, they learn to use it better. We have to achieve, whether you go to an American university, you go to a US university, and Indian or wherever, the marks will be important. But the point we're talking is the process to achieve those marks. Is it going to be just through a ratification, or is it going to be through a lot of understanding of what the child is going through? That entire process of the 12 years or 14 years should be a process of learning, where he learns and understands. Of course, he will get marks as well then. Why will he not get marks? But that journey is what we forget often.
So our collective gone across to different educators when we ask this question, what we always hear and what we have tabulated is perhaps we'll have to meet children where they are, right? So if you expect that children would walk that extra path to meet you by saying that don't do this, that is getting the resistance now, and more so than in the past, right? So where the child today will have to walk that path, and that's a change, and that relates to the next question, which is very important as an educators. We are a different generation. We are a generation we are not neither here nor there, right? So what has happened in the last 20 years of the technology changing never happened in the decades in the past. Whatever you had, I don't know whether you hear this, and my daughters kind of exposed me to this. It's called Chat GPT. So I said, you're writing an application for the US, your application. He said, Dad, why are you spending so much time? Let me show you something. I said, what? So she pasted some 3 pages and she pasted it all on the chat GPT. He said, these are the places where I'm seeing the corrections. These are the places I need to do this. In about 45 minutes, I had a full, very well written with nothing which is shown as a copy. And I said, how do you do that? He said, this is a new OpenAI chat GPT is allowing you to do that. Now this is a child who's telling you that this is, and which is why he keeps saying we'll have to meet them to understand what's chat GPT. And that was my understanding. And what did I do? The moment she went away, I look at all problems on my office, I pasted it. How do I do this marketing? How do I do this? And I got all of the answer, which is very logical. So I think as an educator, we need to perhaps meet the child there, perhaps the learning process. And that's the next question, Disha. How can a teacher transform a student's life or a school brand or a parent's expectation in that 45 minutes given to them? 45 minutes class. Lots been expected from the teacher. I'm going to talk to the parents, answer all the questions. We will take care of child, take care of their education, also make a great brand as an school. As an head of school and educators, that is a question. What is it that teacher is doing to change that whole 45 minutes? And that's a question to all of us.
I think that's just the basic and the only question, to be very honest. I attribute my entire success, which I think I've had a relatively successful career and is still going on, is entirely because of amazing teachers. So it is about teachers. And when I say that, I so mean it. But the point is, are we really training them up so much? We often, we as in the heads of schools and principals often go around saying, oh, my teacher doesn't do this, my teacher doesn't do this, or, this did not happen because of the teacher. The parent also comes and says, ye kara do. And I think we take on a bit too much. So one is that unrealistic expectations, we're not supposed to take care of them. The parent is supposed to take care of them. But then there is a large amount of onus on us as well, because we have the kid for at least about 8 hours. And we are trained teachers. But then are we really the trained teachers or not? So I guess whether it is 2005 NCF or it is 2022 or the NEP 2020, you do see a lot of similarities. You do see a few words being tweaked here and there. But it's a great document. But that document will only come real when, you try to train your teachers. And not just the training, because a lot of schools say, yes, we train our teachers. And of course, we do train our teachers. But that's not what I'm talking about. Do we know what kind of trainings do they need? Do we know where are the gaps? Do we walk into the classrooms? Do we sit through them? Do we handhold that? Principals, we love to sit in our offices. If we sit in the classes, we know where our teacher is struggling because she's really making an effort, and she in the end has only that 45 minutes to do the magic. And she's not a magician, but she has to do it no matter what. And funnily, our success depends on them. We are only going to be successful if they are successful. So let's do that and right kind of trainings to have an understanding of where the gaps are, and then to provide that training only, so that we don't burden them with so many trainings that at the end of the day, the teacher is like, give me a breather. I don't want that training, because you want to fill in records. So if we take that away, and I think the magic will happen. So it's entirely a school success is because of the teacher.
Any reflection on teachers? And actually, give you example of Formula 1. They say that they don't win the race on the Formula 1 track. They win the race when they go into the dock. Changing time, conversation, what are you doing right, not doing right, and then coming back on the track wins the race. Any reflection on teachers? What have you seen as a change? What is more required? We know we have our own set of approach which we have taken, but I think it's a great idea for me to sort of again this side of the educators to have some something to share. What have you seen as a change in terms of teachers? And what do you think can help us to make a better teacher with so much new things happening? There's going to be an intervention of all of the new NCF implementation as well. Any suggestion, anything which is...
It's very important that teachers know exactly what students do in their spare time, what movies they like to watch, what are the games that they are playing on the computer, because only then you can actually start a conversation, and that will definitely bring the children closer. And the other thing that I wanted to ask all the educators here is that do you feel that mobile phones should be allowed in class 11 and in 12? Because a lot of principals I met, recently, they said that, of course, we allow children to bring in mobile phones in senior secondary 11 and 12, but we have not allowed that. But they feel that they have got used to it, and therefore, when they need to do any research work in the classroom, the mobile phone comes in handy. But I don't know what you all feel about that.
I think the good question to frame, what do you feel about the digital, what as an educator or teacher, digital intervention in the classroom? How much should it be? What should be, how should it be used? I mean, there's a real research to be done by the elderly, the class 10th and 12th. So how much should that intervention be? Is the real question, is really what you're asking. Should we have any reflection from this side? Anything to share?
Good evening, all of you. I completely agree with the ma'am. It's not mandatory use the mobile for cell phones in senior secondary level, because already teachers are there and they physically all details explain, whatever they need, the details explain. So I think it's better, no need to allow mobile phone in the classrooms, because teachers are there. If any queries, any problems you issue there, you can ask your teacher and you solve the issues. Okay, I agree with ma'am.
Good evening. Basically, teacher will have to have study in home in depth. Then they have to confront the students. And mobile phone, it is again controversial. In my opinion, I will feel favor to provide mobile phone to my son, daughter, or to my students. But other teacher, they do not feel it. So it cannot be, there can be an open option to the teacher. If they feel they can control over this matter, all right. And basically what happened, respected principals all, they generally in tune of going to the bed sites, those generally directly, indirectly affect them. Otherwise, it's very good.
Well, I have been heading IB schools, and what do we do? Because there is a lot of research which is required. What we generally do, that we ask them to get an iPad or the laptop, and which has got a strong firewall. So we allow them to visit educational websites and they do the work. Because in IB, there is a lot of research which is required, online, offline, all that. So we, in fact, permit them, because it's for the purpose of research. So mobile is not needed. They can come with their laptops, and then school provides the Wi-Fi, and we have a firewall. So that sorts the issue out.
Right. In fact, very interesting 2 points. I think having run the higher stake assessment of the likes of Cambridge and IB, I think often we go back to the boards and the structure of the boards. But if you to look at many schools who are really also the state boards, and the kind of structure and the culture they have set in is a very higher order. There is a thinking child coming out of that, and there is a real conversation happening between that learner and the teacher. And I think that shift which we see is essentially around the fact that the whole model of teacher itself is getting changed. Teacher is not a teacher anymore. Teacher is learner. That can you tell me, how do I do this, right? Am I sitting next to you, make me learn? The example which I gave you about my daughter, I could have actually seen, what are you doing? This is shortcut. You do not want to do that. You want to do more research. I said, teach me how does it really happen. So the higher order curriculum essentially allows you to play with a culture rather than the structure to create that thinking environment. And that thinking environment is not only for that learner, whether you talk about theory of knowledge, I'm sure IB advocates that, or we talk about global perspective, these are kind of concepts which we've been involved in terms of seeing it. But that is only the culture set. More research work happening, more sort of thinking happening with the teacher. So perhaps there is a shifting role of a teacher, not only to have always the discussion going, it has to be a more mentor, more driven. And actually, when I was in Cambridge, often we asked what makes University of Cambridge different, and often our professors used to tell us that, when you go to Cambridge, any college where you join, there are two person get allocated to you. One, your tutor, and the second one who takes care of your social being, right? How do you deal with the world? What's happening across the world? So you have two individuals, one teacher who's teaching you throughout, and one who's taking care of your set of what's happening in the society. And so imagine if you put all of this in one teacher, how difficult it is. It is not, which is why we continue to say there's a lot of intervention on the teacher, a different kind of a training to happen. Not only teachers, the educators, us as an educators, to shifting time, because we are a different generation. You know, all of this generation is actually going through a very different kind of a change, you know, with a kind of a overdose of not only technology, of information, right? So I think the shift which needs to happen is perhaps that. So that's the important question for that 45 minutes. What kind of training, what kind of, sort of reinforcement needed? Okay, so what is also seen, and this is very important, you know, in this whole COVID time, this becomes even more important. See, what has happened is that you suddenly shifted to screen, right? And the screen is not in control of yours, right? It's not in your control. You have, the screen is in the control of that parent, right? So whether the video will work or the sound would work, or that learner and parents are controlling the screen. Educators control completely gone out of hand. Half of the time the teacher is yelling, switch on your camera, your mic is not working, all of that happening. Wasn't that true? Yeah? So with all of that true, parents became a very important stakeholder. And they've started asking, boss, I'm here. Right? So, and even when they can't contribute, but they are saying, I'm here. Now that's an important question they started asking. So, Nisha, that's the question, the third pillar which we've been talking about for a long period of time. That is an important pillar. Got massively accelerated in terms of becoming an important stakeholder. And they are not taking it back. They continue to be there. So what is it which is really, the question is, what is parents' change expectation from the school now? What are parents actually looking in terms of schools to deliver? Is a very important question now. It's coming to the third pillar side. I don't know whether I'm making sense. I'm hearing what I'm hearing here, outside the country, everywhere. Education is no different. The boards give and take are the same. It is the thinking school which does very well. And all of you are thinking school. Parents become a very important aspect of that thinking school. And the question now is that what are they expecting from schools? Is really a good question. And I think I would like to hear more from all of you, and Nisha, your view as well, as somebody who's been in the...
Yes, so pre-COVID or post-COVID, I feel, yes, there has been a shift in the expectation, because now the parent has clearly been witness to what happens inside the classrooms in the last 2 years. All, those 4 hours or 5 hours, they've seen the teachers. Now the principals just can't cover up, or the teacher can't cover up saying, your child doesn't work, or he doesn't do, or blah, blah, and all that, because they've seen it happening. So it's worked both ways. For some schools, it's really acted so well, because what the principal or the teacher was saying, now the parents saw that yes, the teachers were doing a fabulous job. They were doing a great work. And where the principals or the teachers were saying that we're doing a good job, and the parent witnessed that yes, it was not happening. So the expectation before and even post is more or less the same, that, are you taking care of my child? Because I've given him to you. I'm not qualified enough to do X, Y, Z, and that's where the school pitches in. And I pay you for that, of course, because, and it's their child, there's a lot of emotional connect as well out there. So I feel all that they look for is the evidence of learning. And if there is an evidence of learning that happens, whether we show it in our PTMs, whether we show it in the classrooms, whether we show it through proper assessments, which are meaningful assessments done, and we share it with parents, the parents do not bother teachers or principals. And that's been my experience. And when we don't do that, is when the parents gets, a little scared, unhappy, unsure, and then of course the WhatsApp group chats starts. So the expectation of the parent is very valid, and I think a school which is a confident school is the teacher knows what she's doing and why she's doing it, and she can clearly show that this is the path that I have for your child. This is the evidence of where your child is headed for, from where he was to where he has reached now. I think the parents don't really bother you to post that at all. And they're willing to collaborate with you, on the contrary. So they're not against you, which earlier would happen. But my experience has been that I think parent community has been a great supporter of us, and we've been open to them. And after COVID, you can't even hide much. So yeah, I don't know if I've answered.
Yeah, no, I
that.
think I'm very keen to actually walk across to and pose this straight questions to. So these are important. As I said, this is a Brahmaputra trip for a Burlington corridor. I'm here. Let me ask this question. What have you seen in your schools, parents coming back and asking?
That's what ultimately happens with it. Whatever we say as an educator, we need to educate the kids, and after all, they feel like they need the marks, they need the success of their kids. Maybe looking back after 2 years of pandemic, issues and problems what teachers also face in the class are same. Because as Ma'am was rightly mentioning, like now parents know what exactly happened in the classes. And they do not want to know, or they do not want to bother exactly what we speak and what we project. They just need the success. And it's up to us now. Many of us, like qualified teachers, we have been trained for a long time. We are getting trained for each and every time, for each and every purpose, whatever the policies that's been made by the government. But the thing, like, once we step into the classrooms, we do not know what exactly happens with the kids. They are entirely different. You don't expect what they talk to, what they speak to you, and what they think of. And to an extent, when we speak of like the relevance of teachers are getting a bit of deteriorated, because students get whatever they need from outside, and you just go with the books, chalks, and different things, like it's not going to work it out in the school anymore. You have to get yourself equipped. You need to be beyond the imagination of the students to survive at this time. If not, probably, the relevance of the schools and the different systems definitely is going to collapse. I don't know how the things are going to work it out, maybe the coming decades, but still a bit of uneasiness that happens to our mind. We do not know how and what it happens with. And thank you for this question, sir.
No, I heard three things, which is one, the marks is important. Boss, I'm coming to a school, get me a good marks. That's given, right? The second, what I heard is teacher is at the center, but there is a effort which we need to do as a teacher to learn more so that we can pace with the tree. Is that right? Right. So I think clearly there is a demanding parent there, both. Before I ask somebody else the question, here's the only time I'm going to tell you about Burlington. So Burlington, what did Burlington hear? Burlington heard two things from parents, and we went across to parents. Get my child the marks and let him speak or write English well. These are two things which we heard, and very honestly, and that's the only philosophy which tried making sense. No matter how much do you really want other languages to be spoken, and the why East is best, which is our East, and people are looking at East, because our observation is the Northeast and the East side is much more evolved in terms of language skills. And the moment you are evolved in language skill, your thinking skills scientifically goes up, right? So the thinking child comes out of this part of the world. It doesn't matter whether this part of the world contributes to only 3.8 or 4% to the economy, but the fact is the future is here. So we heard two things. One, get me a good marks. But second, also let the child speak or write well. Am I somewhere close? What do you think? Yeah? Yeah. Sir, what is your view?
Good evening to everybody. Actually, we are using technologies and we'll use more and more technology. It's okay. And students are also getting marks. Nowadays, students are scoring higher and higher marks. Nowadays, we observe it. All students are scoring good marks. But I am worried about their behavioral senses. Everywhere I have seen that what behavior we expect from them, we are not getting that. What to do in that cases? I want to learn some words and hear some words about this. How we can sense their behavior to a good one.
Now, what marks are we talking about? Marks of the 10th, 12th is going to be challenged with the CUET marks now. Now, that's another challenge which has come thrown into a new change. So I think the parents are going to start asking, is my child going to do well in CUET marks or not? Because now the admission in St. Stephen's and St. Xavier's is happening with the CUET marks. So other challenge for you. But the child, if they learn how to speak English, or how to write English, he will do well in CUET and he will absolutely do well in the board exam as well. That's a correlation which we have found. That's the only time I'm going to use the Burlington's view of seeing the world. And we are a holistic approach of both the behavior of reading, behavior of listening. So if you to look at statistically, it's proven in a classroom in 45 minutes, and this is the stats, and I'll quote, 80% of the time is actually spent listening, right? If the child is not listening and you've not taught them how to listen, you've gone. Forget about that output result, CUET or nothing is going to come in. And the remaining part is where you start looking at getting other output skills, which is speaking and writing. And for any subject, if these skills are not honed, the pendulum of education would still here. If skills not honed, you would actually not have a thinking child. And not alone the fact that you will get him a 92% by rote learning, child will struggle when they get into the colleges and get into the jobs. So I think it's an important reflection which we need to sort of, with that, I think I will get to the last part of my sort of, Nisha, to question, the last question to you. And I think perhaps some is partnership, right? And partnership is also us as a partners, right? Educators as our own individual partnership, but as also as an institution, you know, what is the value of partnership, right? What are you? And I go back to my legacy slide, that when I started partnering with my schools, and why do I want to go to JNU, why do I want to go to Kellogg, or why do I want to do, I thought about a partner, right? Which leaves a legacy for me and which makes me relevant, right? Here, when you're looking at your partnership, your school's partnership, and when you really have a challenge to have a thinking child or a thinking teacher or a learning teacher, in a corporate world, we have a lot of time and money spent in terms of them sending us to, you know, this big school, business schools, for us to learn and come back and perform that back in our corporate. In the school ecosystem, when you're partnering with anybody, you know, whether you're partnering with Burlington or you're partnering with anybody, what kind of partnership are we looking for? You know, that's a question. What do you look for when you look for partnership, Nisha? You've been running very successful schools, I mean, heritage of the world, and you've set up IB, Cambridge curriculum, you're setting up schools across the country now. Who is your partner? Who do you think should be your partner?
Well, definitely parents. Of course, you can't rule them out at all. One, for the simple fact that when I entrust my child to a school, it's a lot of me that I'm giving out there, you know. And I want that guarantee that the school is going to take care of him. And every school says, we'll do this, we'll do that. So a lot of transparency in the relationship of partnership. And transparency will only come in when you make everything very visible to a parent. So, and when we talk in a context of a school, obviously the parent, like what I shared earlier, and somebody even said again and again that it's marks. But how do we reach there? If we make that entire process very transparent with two parents, then I think that's the most beautiful form of partnerships with a parent community. And it goes without saying that obviously parents are going to be our partners. They're the ones who go out and talk about our school. So forget, even if I talk purely in terms of business, I need them. And if I don't talk of business, if I talk of the other side, that I'm in the business of education, that it's my job, it's my duty, the onus is on me to take the kid forward, obviously I have to handhold the parent, right? And he has to walk along with us. So a partnership where, you know, I clearly share with the parent community that I am training my teachers. They are well equipped to handle your child. Taking a feedback from them and then again plugging it back to cover up or fill in those gaps. I think that's the kind of partnership that I have worked on. And allowing them now, of course, we can't even say not to let them into the classrooms because they're already there in the classrooms. So a kind of a partnership where, you know, I also get a system where there is, like, we will have to have a lot of hybrid models as well because we can't let the technology completely out. So some kind of a partnership with, let's say now if I talk about Burlington, because I have been, you know, looking at their solutions for my schools as well. All of us need an English language because whether I teach social studies, I teach science, I teach geography, or whatever it is in English, not just the English as a subject. So I need that competency to be built in my teachers. And we come from all over. We may not find teachers who are really competent enough, except the English teachers and the pronunciations, the way they talk, the vocabulary and everything. So some kind of a solution where that gets plugged in, and then a platform which allows me to reach out to parents and give them a peek into my classroom where technology comes in handy. So a system like that is what I think has worked for us, and I'm sure it's going to be more of a partnership, which we cannot, but we can't avoid that at all now, because a parent has become demanding, and we've realized that they are there and they have a voice and they've been talking about it. So I think stakes are high, and parent obviously has to be a partner in the right way. Yeah.
So 4 days back, I was in a moderated session with a very celebrated author named Chetan Bhagat. And I sort of had a chat on the side, and he said, and this is really my chat conversation with him, and he says, I have 2 kids, and they've grown up and they were getting too much in technology, and I realized technology is a kind of things which is really bothering them. They were learning writing in technology, reading in technology, and I realized this is going to have an impact. And guess what he suggested? He said, technology was the reason why I was worried. And I needed to make some intervention to make sure the children, both the children, are doing very well for him. And this is a personal anecdote which I'm actually sharing here. And I think he said, there is an intervention of technology as much as required, but if you really want a thinking child, an author cannot be an author when you start not thinking. And when you write, you think, right? So writing and reading going anywhere, if somebody says by technology company, platform can be different. But that as a thinking aspect goes anywhere, is not going anywhere. Whether the handwriting happens or not happen it's not a question. Whether the stopping thinking is a bigger question. And English or a language is not about a language writing skills or writing. It is about that thinking skills which is important, right? So I think therefore the question in front of us as an educator, that are we making a thinking school, or are we making a thinking child through our curriculum intervention, is really very important. Just when you thought that you're getting me out of business, I am in the business of thinking, right? So I am in the business of thinking, and I will want to think with you. I want to really think with you to say that what is my progressive curriculum? Ma'am, you've been sitting here, your reflection.
I really feel that thinking is very important, as you said, because our emotions, our thoughts, it is only reflected through thinking. So technology cannot help in that. So when we write something, we express our emotions, things come out from our soul. So I think that's why. So in that way, technology cannot be, it can provide us some hints and all, like vocabulary, meanings and all, we can get a hint. But then, as you said, so thinking is an important factor, and which develops the students' emotional quotient as well.
Some of the challenges that I have come across in the past 3 years of heading the school of St. Anthony's, North Guwahati, the first question that I keep asking myself, the question is, the children do not have the patience of listening. Children are not willing to listen. Yeah? For a language, you're speaking about English language. I remember learning English. I was not an English medium school student. I was from a vernacular medium school. And then I joined English medium when I was in class 8. I remember the intensity with which I used to listen to every speaker, to every teacher, to every priest in the school. We were listening with keen ears, and we were learning English by listening so much. And we used to emulate, imitate, practice. We had a lot of intensity and passion. Today what we see is children do not have that passion at all. They are without any salt, without any favor. And this is fervor I mean to say. So you see them, persons who are talking blah, 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 blah all the time, without a focus of, we are insisting on English language. But children speak a lot, but they are not willing to listen. Secondly, children are not willing to speak English. They are very much engaged speaking Assamese. You tell them English is very important because that is your medium of language is English. All your subjects are English based. You tell them any amount of time, they speak only Assamese. They are not willing to appreciate English. They are not willing to come in front to explain. You go to a classroom, what alarms me is none of the child is willing to ask you questions. You ask them questions 10 times to get an answer. They're not willing to participate actively. This is one side, okay? The other side, what you're all speaking about is, we are not willing to enter into the life of the child because we do not know what the child is. Their interests, we do not know. And the system, education system in which we are engaged, wants results. Parents want marks. Parents want only positive things. The education system doesn't allow experimentation. We don't have much time to think. We have just 10 months. We have to conduct this test, we have to have that, and CBSE is giving us a lot of homeworks to do, lot of assignments to do, lot of reports to be submitted, and therefore holding a responsibility of captaining the ship of the school becomes a very difficult task. You want to make changes, you want to help your teachers, you want to make changes in the life of students, we are unable. We have a good intention, we want to inspire students, we want to be patient, we want to enter into that world, but we are unable. I understand, a lot of things are being spoken, very easy to speak, but when you sit on the chair and go through the difficulties day in and day out, you know how difficult. At times your emotions have to vary. Within 5 minutes, your emotions have to swing from top to bottom. You have to be kind, you have to be understanding, you have to be strict. So it is quite a difficult task in today's context. And therefore, when it comes to language, children today lack the skill of listening. They're not willing to speak English, which however you try to speak, they don't have that passion. This is what I want to underline. My difficulty as a head of the institution.
So we may say, okay, Ratnesh, you're not heading a school, so you probably can stand here and talk and say, let's make English language interesting or whatever. I'm as a head of the school. In the last 25 years, I realized that the point is that we are running a school. The point is we have the responsibility of children. The point is that we will have to do the admin and the academics both. So we can't run away. Now the point is, how do we do it? So that's the only question, right? Passion to hai bachcho mein. Passion is when you intensely do something, engage with something, passion hai. Their passion may be something else, right? Not what we want them to be passionate about, but children are passionate. Let's not take that away from them. And the other thing is, like when we say they don't want to speak in an X language or want to speak in a Y language, probably they have more comfort in that language. So the idea is, let's make them comfortable in the English language. And when they're becoming comfortable in the English language, and how are we going to do that? Obviously, the onus is again on us. If we keep telling them, do it, no. We got to equip them with the skills of speaking the English well. And in a very safe environment where I'm not judged, where I'm not ticked, where I'm not going to be reprimanded, and when I'm not going to be given a certain marks. So can we create a space in the school where, they do get a space to talk about that language? And I'm not talking about debates and discussions which we have in school, because we all know we write the script for children, we pick up the best speaker and we give it to them and our school wins a prize. I'm not talking about that at all, right? Then coming down to the fact that, we have a lot to do. I have led CBSE schools, and again, I'm only talking about personal experience. I'm not, no comment on what you said, but just sharing my experience. I realized that CBSE gives you complete flexibility. Till grade 8, they don't ask you to do anything at all. I've got the grade 10th and 12th affiliations also without even a single CBSE workshop being done, and I'm quoting this and saying this loud, which probably can be aired as well. So CBSE only tells you, train your teachers. They're only giving you a training in case if you as a school can't find a trainer, I'm providing you with trainings, you can use my trainings. But if you think that those trainings are not worth it, we don't need to do that. Nowhere are the schools asking the principals to sit and do the logistics. Because yes, they have to keep a track of so many schools, right from a village school to a heritage school, which is a, great experiential learning school, and all the schools in between, they have to keep a track. So it's talking about setting some standards. So they need documentation. We can put anybody who's good with documentation sitting there, because even I used to say, I said, I think there's someone very nice in CBSE who's sitting down and sending 10 circulars to principals. Minimum 4 circulars is where every day we receive at least 4 circulars from CBSE. So we can have somebody sit there and do that. They're not asking the principal to do that. So that's a choice that we've made, right? So I think if we put a good teacher, employ her there, tell her, sit here, keep replying to the CBSE circulars, and move out and go to the classrooms and make English language learning a great, happy experience where we give them interesting reading material, I think the ball will change.
Sir, as
the drama will change.
Quick two-sentence rebuttal, if I may call that. No, but I think interesting. This is Burlington Corridor. This is learning. This is not contesting. This is learning. Right? This is learning.
So I have a different opinion about CBSE. See, as a head of an institution, you are supposed to have the liberty to chalk down the curriculum of a school. Yeah, and when you have a plan made, a yearly plan made, there are too many interventions from the CBSE. Yeah, you are looking at it from one point of view. I have just seen in this couple of few months the amount of work they are asking us to do and then submit evidences. So are we not given liberty to do things, or we have to only meet their requirements? Are we just slaves to CBSE, or just because we are affiliated, we need to respond to this? This is one of the questions that I'm practically struggling with, because we have to demand from the teachers to conduct an activity, evidence has to be uploaded. Are we here to only meet their demands, or are we here to implement what we want to do things? So this is something which I'm practically, and I don't know how many heads of institutions are into. I'm actively doing all that work myself. So I know what it is. You may be delegating and people are doing it for the sake of business, but that's different.
No, so I think it's a very valid point. I guess what has happened in what we heard right in the beginning, it's a very valid point. What we heard in the beginning is the fact that there's a parent who's an important partner. We're talking about a partnering, right? Then a challenge which was thrown to me, writing ja raha hai boss, kya karoge? So which has a rebuttal from my side. Then there is a partner, CBSE, which is important partner. There is another one which is coming, which is adding.
So, first of all, on the contrary, ma'am, a little rephrasing. To be very honest, it has almost about become compulsive now. There are no choices for the principals. But yes, just now I was talking to Shalini ma'am. The thing is that what happens, expression series, Pariksha Pe Charcha, Man Ki Baat, PPC, what more? Veer Gatha. Okay, now what is happening at the end of the Ganit challenge, at the end of the day, I as a principal, I got to prove it to somebody or the other, And in order to do that, I'm coming to you. In order to do that, I have to pick up the best of my kids and perform my best. But the thing is that why am I having to do that? Because there are so many of my kids who are not fluent in English.
Right.
And it is important that I follow what you said and set up a standard in the school where I am so free to, these things don't bother me at all, because most of my children, they know what they are writing, they're speaking, they're saying, they're understanding. Therefore, it's very important that knowledge of English speaking and learning and listening and everything, it's upgraded.
You say that you have friends. Every time you have friends, he's already kind of making my point.
Father,
This is the last point.
Father Tony Marshall is a very good friend of mine, by the way.
So just want to add, like whatever everyone was discussing. When we talk about listening, or when we talk about inculcating English as a language in our children, within our children, listening is very important. And I think as teachers and educators, it is also our responsibility to give that environment where we are also speaking that language if we want our children to learn it. Because somewhere I have seen that educators at times, they don't speak the language, and that time the students fails to listen to it. So I think as educator, we have to create that environment, and first we have to start with ourselves, where we are starting to talk in English, or we are interacting. Maybe that at times it cannot be perfect always. But if we are talking in English, or if we are giving that confidence within our children, then they can inculcate that habit without any hesitation. I think that it needs to be
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other points, anything, any other reflection before sort of... my points are all made, so CBSE is one point which we will absolutely take it, just as a last sentence.
Regarding the language, when I joined the school, I joined as a teacher. So I was asked to teach class 1 English and class 8. I taught English. I don't know Assamese, I don't know English, I don't know Bengali, any other language except English. And therefore I told children, you need to speak English. If you have to communicate to me, there's only way, only English. I just challenged the entire school that my children from class 1 would speak in English within a month. Won't believe it, within a month all came on the stage and they all performed things.
Fantastic.
So it is possible, but it is not possible to have that intensity. We can't expect every teacher to have that intensity.
Sure.
So that's where lies the difficulty.
I think point taken. I guess one of the points which I would like to highlight here, we are Burlington English, but that does not mean that we are English only. We're the only company or only organization who are very empathetic about the literature, language, and the reflection of society. So what we're building through our program is that we have we spent 3 years, all native language speaker in one room to find out what is it which is nuanced in India. So we have our approach to language is from Assam to English rather than Assamese to English rather than English to English and learn English. Right? That's not possible. And it's not about medium instruction. It is a serious intervention that our coded curriculum, which you will be part of, you will see it, is having your language at the center and then learn language, which makes it very natural for institutes to see as familiar to a near to far strategy, because English is important. It is important for your sort of research. It is important for your, higher education or the employability. But unless you do not have fundamentals, as they say in, society is a reflection of that language and literature, and that's yours. I come from a village where Ramdhari Singh Dinkar was born. So how can I forget Ramdhari Singh Dinkar and his poetry, learning about Wordsworth and others? It is not possible. I mean, how can I forget about my root, right? So I think the approach is not only English. It is important. It is critical. It is also that how are we teaching that thinking skill through the language, and a reflective child and a reflective teacher with the discussion and discourse happening. That is really what we are trying to make. But a trusted partner, a partner who believes what that child and the thinking child would be there, a partner who actually comes back to you and says, the society is telling you this. This report tells how digital and this needs to be managed well. Shares with you that if you manage your attention of your child in this manner, it will be better output, is really what we're representing as Burlington. And I think that's really what our reflection is. We are here to make that partnership, that who's standing by your side, not commercially. Commercially, you take decision. But standing by your side to say, can I bring research to you? Can I bring expertise from outside? Can I bring teachers from other nations? Or can I take you to the different parts of the world, which is really where the education of excellence happening? And make that accessible to you, which is very, not a ceremonial access, which happens generally for the more optics and marketing, but make that as a part of your DNA of institution is really what we're trying to do as a Burlington. With that being said, let me just present you Burlington English small AV. We're all looking for a great evening.
The seed of a global wave pertaining to the impact of English language proficiency was sown over 4 decades ago. The founders of Burlington English could foresee English language competencies becoming among the most crucial skills for anyone to succeed in the new world order. Starting right from school, helping students to succeed in academics, opening doors to renowned higher education institutions, setting benchmarks for job interviews, and finally coming to the aid of working professionals, helping them elevate their careers and reach new heights with language competency. In these 40 years across 40 countries, Burlington English has and continues to inspire and empower millions of minds, helping them realize their dreams of becoming thinkers, actors, creators, strategists, analyzers, forecasters, and leaders with exceptional communication abilities, which enables them to convey, convince, and collaborate efficiently and successfully. Ones who question what they listen, ones who substantiate what they speak, ones who analyze what they read, ones who critique what they write. Burlington English brings its enriched legacy to India. To partner with the country's progressive schools, Burlington English invites your school to lead the revolution now in India. With immersive and high-impact English language enhancement initiatives packed with advanced technology, comprehensive curriculum, and well-thought-out pedagogy. It goes beyond the realm of traditional English textbooks, equipping the learner with substantive language skills to succeed in any stage of their life. We look forward to creating a powerful synergy with your institutions. We welcome you to the fraternity of the world's most prestigious educational establishments, leagues apart and generations ahead of schools. With Burlington English School Partnership Program, be a pioneer, innovator and pathbreaker in the space of learning. Be a winner. Be a Burlington school.
All right, people, let us all give a big, big round of applause for Mr. Ratnesh and, of course, Nisha ma'am. I believe we had a pretty fruitful session for all of us. So we're about to begin the musical evening in a short while from now. But before we do that, once again, on behalf of Burlington English, I'd like to thank each one of you for being a part of this evening. Because without you people, this evening wouldn't have been possible. Can we please have a round of applause for all of you?
Yes.
One of the wonderful event, it's a good interaction that we do have it, and the ideas that has been shared is really amazing. And with regard to the future of education, it's at stake. We do not know what to say about it, because the kind of things what we see at present and the kind of changes we face it, and the attitude of the students, the education that changes. It's just getting in somewhere else. Sometimes, we are at stake. We just get stuck in between where to start, how to resolve it.
To talk about the problems that we are facing in the education institutions post-pandemic. And we are happy to know that Burlington has a way of reaching out to our students so that the emotional values, which some educators have pointed out are missing post-pandemic, will be gently brought back. All right, certain values will be taught through these lessons. It's going to be interdisciplinary as well. And at the end of the day, we want our children to speak better English.
We are heading for a huge and a great future. There is going to be a huge transformation now. We are moving on to NEP, and as you are well aware, it is important that vocations are opened, which will further open up job opportunities, because in today's world, what is happening, there's a lot of learning, a lot of degrees, a lot of things that are happening, but ending up with joblessness. So once the schools become a basic platform from where we can provide children vocations, different vocations, and also teach them a lot of dignity of labor.
It was really wonderful, meeting up with other educators and interacting and listening to them. It was very informative, and it's a learning.
To my right, I have David Goldsmith, rhythm guitars, Rajiv Hazarika, the lead guitars, and this is Biraj at the acoustic drums. Billy Rose was a night rider, Billy Rose was a night fighter, Billy Rose knew trouble like the sound of his own name. Busted on a drunken charge, driving someone else's car. The local midnight sheriffs named it plain. In an Arizona jail, there is some who tell the tale. I believe fought the sergeant for some bill that he demanded, knowing they'd remain the boss, knowing he'd pay the cost. They saw he was severely reprimanded. In the blackness
dance with me, just take me home. Come away, El Pasley, Yandalita. Moon was a Mexican, the law called an alien, for coming across the border with a baby and a wife. All the clothes upon his back were red, and still he thought that he could get some money and things to start a life. It hadn't been too very long when it seemed like everything went wrong, and Steven had the time to find himself a home. This foreigner, a brown skin maid, thrown inside the Texas jail, left to bathe and baby quite alone. He's the pain inside him, with a needle in his arm, but the dog just crucified him. He died to no one's great alarm. From the lake, El Pasley, to Luna down. Kilowatt was an agent con of 65 who stood a chance to stay alive and leave the joint and walk the streets again. All the clothes upon his back were wet, but still he thought that he could get some money and things to start a life. Then on the day of his release, he was approached by the police, who took him to the warden, walking slowly by his side. The warden said he won't remain here, but it seems the state retainer claims another 10 years of your life. How a kilowatt and 50 yards, he threw himself down. They might just rather stopped him. They count the ground, right on the ground. Come and lay El Pasley, the old man down. We gotta raise the prisons to the ground. Help us raise the prisons to the ground.
Are you okay with the sound? Yeah, okay, I'm glad.
Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River. Life is older than the trees, younger than the mountains, blowing like a breeze. Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country road. All my memories gather round her. Miner's lady, stranger to the water. Dark and dusty, painted in the sky. Misty taste of moonshine, teardrops in my eyes. Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country road. I hear a voice in the morning, she calls me. The radio reminds me of my home far away. And driving down the road, I get the feeling that I should have been home yesterday. Yesterday, country road, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads, come take me home. Country roads, come take me home. Country roads, come take me home.
Big round of applause to all of you out there. Y'all make it happen, seriously.
ये शाम मस्तानी मदहोश किए जाए मुझे डोर कोई खींचे तेरी ओर लिए जाए ये शाम मस्तानी मदहोश किए जाए मुझे डोर कोई खींचे तेरी ओर लिए जाए दूर आती है तू कभी पास आती नहीं होठों पे तेरे कभी बात आती नहीं है ऐसा लगे जैसे कि तू हंस के जहर कोई पिए जाए ये शाम मस्तानी मदहोश किए जाए मुझे डोर कोई खींचे तेरी ओर लिए जाए
You remember when the rock was young? Me and Susie had so much fun, holding hands and screaming stand. Had an old-time Chevy on a place of my own, but the biggest kick I ever got. Soon as singing called the crocodile rock, all the other kids were hunting down the clock. We were hunting down through the crocodile rock. Well, crowd record, the song, the shot, when your feet don't stand you still. Never knew me a better time, and I guess I never will. Oh, Lordy, Mama, this Friday night, Susie wore her dresses tight. A crowd rocking on the steamer, sounds on the side. Went by and the rock just died. Susie ran the left, that's from some foreign guy. Long I cried like a wrecking machine, dreaming of my Chevy and my old jeans, but they never killed the dreams we've got. Turning up to the crocodile rock, learning fast how the week went past. We were really starting to the crocodile rock. Well, crowd rocket, the song they shout you when your feet don't stand you still. I never knew me a better time, and I guess I never will. Oh, Lordy, Mama, this Friday night, Susie wore her dresses tight. A crowd rocket on the steamer, songs on the side. Come on, David. One more.
right.
But I've been walking the streets so long, I'm singing the same old songs. I know every crack of the stone sidewalks to the ground. Hustle's the name of the game, and nice guys get washed away like the snow or the rain. You're in a road of compromising on the road to the horizon. But I'm gonna be where the lights shine on me. The rhinestone cowboy, riding out on the horse like stars that rodeo. The rhinestone cowboy, getting cards and letters from the people I don't even know. And offers coming over the phone. Well, I waited till behind the rain, smile and hide all the pain. It's easy to find the train that's taking the long. And I dream all the things I'll do. The subway token down $1 when it stopped inside my shoe. There'll be a load of compromising on the road to my horizon. And I'm gonna be where the lights shine on me, like a rhinestone cowboy, riding out on the horse like stars that rodeo. Rhinestone cowboy, getting caught up in the letters from the people I don't even know. And offers coming over the phone. Take it where I can now. Subway token down $1 that stopped inside my shoe. There'll be a road of compromising on the road to my horizon. And I'm gonna be where the lights shine on me, like a rhinestone cowboy, riding out on the horse like stars that
অলপ তোৰ মৰম নাই মাই জহুৱাহে
হেৰ জখুৱাই আমাক কলগীয়া অলপ তোৰ মৰম হে মাই জখুৱা হে তোৰা ঘৰে আহি গৰু চাৰি ফুৰু তোৰা ঘৰে আহি গৰু চাৰি ফুৰু ঘৰে কৰা ভাত খাই মাই জখুৱা হে You know, Krishna says, I've come to your house, running these herds of cow, and I'm not even having a slight bit of rice too. But still I do it because I love you, my mom. So where's your love for me? বাজি বুলি জগতে হাঁহিও কাঠ বাজি বুলি জগতে হাঁহিও দেখিও সুমৰা হবি তোৰ ঘৰ আহি পুত্ৰ খোজিলো তোৰ ঘৰ আহি পুত্ৰ খোজিলো ইটো দুখ দূৰ কৰি মাই জখুৱা হে মাহী হেৰ জখুৱা আমাক কলগীয়া অলপ তোৰ মৰম হে মাই জখুৱা হে The lines which I just sang, it said that everybody said that you were not able to born a child, but I have proved that you can born a child, but still you don't love me. Why is it so? Amazing lyrics by Dr. Bhupen Hazarika. তোলা সোণাৰেহে বাঁহী গৰে নেদা তোলা সোণাৰেহে বাঁহী গৰে নেদা ৰাজপথে চৰি হৈ দুয়ো থপাতি তেজ বৈ যাই দুয়ো থপাতি তেজ বৈ যাই বাহৰে বাঁহী বাজন্তে মাই জখুৱা হে মাই হেৰ জখুৱাই আমাক কলগীয়া অলপ তোৰ মৰম নাই হে মাই জখুৱা হে Last paragraph he said, you're so rich, you can't even make me a flute made out of gold. I am playing a flute made out of bamboo, because of which my lips have started bleeding. Why don't you love me so much, dear mother? মাই হেৰ জখুৱাই আমাক কলগীয়া অলপ তোৰ মৰম নাই হে মাই জখুৱা হে Okay, remove the chairs. I shall not start singing till you people are on the floor.
visto dari hundar resteo di me un kerdo tada soy enta dipende di astento aquila mi cuore
Now me sometime, now me già Voglio tu mi musicare, senorita मुझको सबकी अच्छा लगा है senorita
no desviada mirada cantasera di me मुझको बाहों में तू घेरो समझीना senorita चाहत के दो पल भी मिल पाए दुनिया में ये भी कम है क्या दो पल तो आओ खो जाए भूले हम होता हम है क्या senorita सुनो सुनो senorita कहते हैं हम क्या ci mi aspetto interpreto e alzandole las calaveras andare sol andare pente mi appende andare senorita
Now sometime, now me già Voglio tu mi musicare, senorita Per dirti, na già मुझको सबकी अच्छा लगा है senorita
do desviada mirada cantas cerca de mí मुझको बाहों में तुम घेरो समझीना senorita चाहत के दो पल भी मिल पाए दुनिया में ये भी कम है क्या दो पल तो आओ खो जाए भूले हम होता हम है क्या senorita सुनो सुनो senorita कहते हैं हम क्या जो भी पल बीता है senorita हर पल तुम नहीं दिल जीता बस तुम इसी तो बात है no desviada mirada cántate y acerca mí मुझको बाहों में तुम घेरो समझीना senorita चाहत के दो पल भी मिल पाए दुनिया में ये भी कम है क्या दो पल तो आओ खो जाए भूले हम होता हम है क्या चाहत के दो पल भी मिल पाए दुनिया में ये भी कम है क्या दो पल तो आओ खो जाए भूले हम होता हम है क्या senorita सुनो सुनो senorita कहते हैं Palpita है senorita हर पल तुम नहीं दिल जीता बस तुम इसी तो बात है no destia la mirada prende cerca de mí मुझको बाहों में तुम घेरो समझीना senorita चाहत के दो पल भी मिल पाए दुनिया में भी कम है क्या दो पल तो आओ खो जाए भूले हम होता हम है क्या चाहत के दो पल भी मिल पाए दुनिया में भी कम है क्या दो पल तो आओ खो जाए भूले हम होता हम है क्या senorita सुनो सुनो senorita कहते हैं
All right. Lovely. Thank you so much. Yes.
Beep-a-paloola, she's my baby. Beep Viva told me, baby, Viva Paloola, she's my baby. Viva Paloola, told me, baby, Viva Paloola, she's my baby, my baby, my baby.
Well, she's a girl with that blue jeans. She's all about everything. She's a girl that shakes everything. She's a woman that loves me so. Viva Paloola, she's my baby. Viva Paloola, told me, baby. Viva Paloola, she's my baby.
Come on, she's a woman in a bright blue jeans. She's a woman in the clear the teeth. She's a wonder woman that I know. She's a woman that I love me so. Viva Paloola, she's a baby. Viva Paloola, told me, baby. Viva Paloola, she's my baby, my baby, my baby. Come on.
She's a girl that got the beat. She's a woman with a fire feet.
Oh yeah.
She's a kind that I love. She's a woman that loves me so. Viva Paloola, she's my baby. Viva Paloola, tell me, baby. Viva Paloola, she's my baby.
Viva Paloola, she's my baby. Viva Paloola, told me, baby. Viva Paloola, she is my baby. Viva Paloola, told me, baby. Viva Paloola, she's my baby, my baby, my baby, my baby. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. Well, you ain't never got, you ain't no friend of mine. She said high class, that was a lie. Where she said high class, that was a lie. Well, you ain't living Kyra, you ain't no friend of mine. Woo, yeah. Let's go one more time. You gotta shake it. Come on, shake those shoes. Shake your legs. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. Well, you ain't it's just a lie. Come on, David. Well, you gotta rap it. Ain't no sweat. do do